Nice.
Hey,
Hey.
it's really quiet. It seems really quiet out today. Jason, I got a haircut.
That's a very nice haircut, Miss Katie.
I got a ball cut.
I
Thanks.
dig it.
I'm doing the layer thing. What are you gonna say?
I said I have not. I'm trying to figure out how the hair growth thing goes.
It looks good. It always looks good though. And I'm also trying to figure out: am I sweet enough for my coffee, or do I need to add more?
Do you need to add more? That's a good question.
I need to add more. I'm not sweet enough.
No.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Check This Out PC, where PC does not stand for politically correct or personal computer.
Or partially covered.
Partially covered. That's amazing. Okay. So hi, I have a class at 9, so we're just gonna make it quick, I guess. But we're gonna talk about home appraisals today. I'm Katie, and that is
Jason.
And I'm the lender. I'm the realtor. He's the lender.
That's right.
What do you know? Okay, so we're gonna talk about home appraisals today. Jason, you know what do you know about the home appraisal?
I know that they are very misunderstood, even in the real estate community.
Yeah, why do you think that is? What's the biggest misunderstanding people have?
This is what I think, and this happens a lot in real estate, and it ends up being something that homeowners kind of pick up. They look at what is my price per square foot, right?
Yes.
A lot of real estate agents, whenever they do their comps, whenever they do their market analysis and everything, they look at price per square foot and use that to determine value. Here's what's interesting.
That's a misconception, correct?
Total misconception. Price per square foot has absolutely nothing to do with how an appraiser is going to value your home.
That's interesting because I've got a list of things here.
Yeah.
What they do now, why do we need a home appraisal? What's the purpose of that? Because we've talked about this before. If you're a cash buyer, you don't need to worry about appraisals. You can still get one, but why is that the case? Because a cash buyer doesn't have to worry about it, and then suddenly you're getting a loan. Why do you need to worry about that appraisal as a seller and a buyer?
Well, there's two different reasons. Number one, as a home buyer, it's good to have a third party come in sometimes. It depends. There are different situations. But as a home buyer, sometimes you want to have the third party come in and substantiate that the value of that home is what it is that you're going to pay for it. For instance, sometimes you might go shop for a really expensive piece of jewelry. That jewelry store might have an appraisal on that stone that you're looking at buying. And why did they do that? Because they want to prove that the value is there for whatever somebody's willing to pay for it. And the second reason is if you're getting a mortgage, the lender wants to know from a third party what the value of that home is, because the lender's taking a risk by lending money to the borrower, right?
Right.
And so what you want to do is they want to make sure that risk is substantiated. If that loan were to default, the appraisal tells them, hey, this is reasonably estimated by a third party that this is the value of the house. So they can make a calculated decision based on the value of that home. So lenders are almost always going to require it.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've talked about this before too, because that's why in this market, we always talk about, Jason, that's one of your biggest things you say is like, what is the home worth? Well, it's what the seller wants for it, what the buyer is willing to pay for it. But appraisals come into play in a market like we have, like, as 2 weeks ago, because we missed last week. Sorry, guys, don't cry. We're the second hottest market in the nation. So we've got houses going 25 to 50, even more over market value and waiving the appraisal. And they're waiving it because they have the cash. And that means they don't have to worry about it if it comes in low. So it's kind of interesting, right? Like, what a crazy market we're in. These are some of the factors in it. So you see how fancy that is down there? What?
Fancy.
Improvements, condition, age, market, location, and neighborhood. So what do you think out of those right there, Jason? Like, why do they consider location and neighborhood in an appraisal?
They consider that, because the values of homes in certain neighborhoods or locations, if you have a choice between two houses and one sits right on a really busy road and one is back in the subdivision, not on a busy road or in a cul-de-sac, there's a difference in value that somebody's going to pay for that property. And the same thing with the neighborhood, right? Like if you're going to buy a house in Scottsdale, it's probably a little bit different than, a market way outside of all the amenities in Scottsdale, like a Buckeye or something like that. It really does matter because it changes the value of the house.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so that just reminded me. Remember that show, that guy, what was his name? Was it Tyler or something? He was real crazy and hyper, and they would pick these families in these horrible neighborhoods, and they would make these fantastic houses. Like the thing is, it doesn't mean that's ever going to appraise at that value because of the neighborhood that it's in, right?
Right.
There was one. Go ahead.
No, that happens a lot. You can over improve a home, for the neighborhood. You can, because again, so the way that appraisals work is it's not price per square foot, but it's the principle of substitution. What they do is they look at a house that is sold. So you have a ready buyer, a willing seller that says this house sold for X amount. So we take this house that's a comparable to that because it's similar in appeal, it's similar in location or neighborhood or any of those things. And we look at it and say, okay, this one had a pool, this one does not. So this will be worth less by X amount of dollars. This one is a little bit bigger than the one that sold. So maybe it's worth a little bit more because of the size. And they substitute those principles to come up with the value relative to something that is already sold.
Yeah. So that's so interesting. Honestly, could I say interesting more? Probably. Interesting. There you go. But it is about that show. I mean, it was really nice that they did that for people, but if they ever wanted to, I mean, and to me, it's like Target, you better get some kind of like big security system there. But that's why we do need, basically, so that because a lender is not going to, is it not a lender? It's not going to loan to someone, $400,000 if the house is worth $350.
Yeah.
Right. So that's
they will if the loan amount is below $350. So if somebody wants to pay $400 for it, the appraisal is $350. Hey, if you want a $320,000 loan on that, no problem. But they're always going to set the amount that they're willing to lend predicated on the appraisal.
See, so it's really important, guys. It's frustrating, and we've had a crazy last year of appraisals, okay? But here's what happens. What happens if they come in low? Does a buyer, now buyers always think, I really want the appraisal to come in low because I'll get the house for less. Does a buyer have negotiating power? Does a buyer have negotiating power when it comes in low?
It depends. It depends on the market. It depends on the seller that you're talking to. There's no yes, they do or no, they don't. In this market, if you're a seller and you just put your house on the market and you got 22 different offers and your appraisal comes in $10,000 low, why wouldn't that seller go ahead and let the buyer cancel and go ahead and sell it to one of the other 21 people who's probably willing to pay $10,000 above the appraised value?
Right. Which is why it happens that in the negotiating process, in getting into contract, under contract, that whole back and forth goes with, do they have enough money to cover it if the appraisal comes in low? If you're going to pay this much more, are you going to be able to cover it? Now, I had a really interesting situation. I'm a seller right now. We're not getting a lot of communication from the other side, and we're going to have to push it a little bit. I think it's going to happen, but we listed it at 210, and I listed it low in order to drive the buyers up, blah, 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 big, long story. But we got an FHA loan, 225. I called the lender. I asked, where is this money coming from? I called you, Jason, because I'm the listing agent. I'm not the buying agent, and I trust Jason for everything, you guys. Jason Fremo's the man. So I called him, and I said, what do I ask? And so I asked the guy, and he said yes, and there's a whole big story there, which I won't bore you with, but he said, yes, she's got this cash and whatnot. So I said, okay, so I feel comfortable with it. So we had a cash buyer, then he backed out. So then I went to them. So like you said, I went to this other people. So guess what? The appraisal comes in at 225. That's a win-win for everybody, because now this buyer, who is an older lady and really excited about it and doesn't really have that much cash and didn't want to spend it, now gets the loan for 225. And then my seller gets to sell for 225. Like he still would have, but do you know what I mean? Like in my mind, that's a win-win. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, totally.
Because yeah. I mean, well, how much difference does it make between 210 to 225 on a payment?
Not much. I mean,
maybe $100.
Not even that much. I mean, probably 40. $40, 45, something like that.
And then she can use that money for improvements and stuff. So I mean, seriously, there's so many factors involved in it, you know. Yeah. So just to let everybody know, like, if it comes in high, no, the seller doesn't have to come up to it. I mean, the buyer doesn't have to come up to that price, right?
Right.
If it comes in low, the seller doesn't have to come down. So you really, your best case scenario, come in at value, and then you don't have any issues whatsoever.
Yeah, that's always the best. But in a market like this where it's never guaranteed, the one thing that you can always do is communicate. And that's the thing that is the most important, is to talk about how are we going to handle this if, because you don't want to be thinking about some of those things necessarily for the first time. Now, you don't want to borrow trouble on the other side. Some measure of the wait and see game, but those are dialogues that really, if you're buying a home, you've got to have with Katie, right? Like, you got to talk about what you are and what you're not willing to do. If you're selling your home, you got to tell Katie, look, this is what I am and this is what I'm not willing to do. That information in the negotiation process is absolutely critical to making sure that she can represent you to the very best extent that she can.
Well, this is why you need people like Jason. God dang it. Like, I haven't been doing this since yesterday, right? So that's why you need lenders like Jason too. So I probably overwhelmed Jason.
No.
Because he is super knowledgeable. And so, like, people ask me questions, say, you gotta ask Jason this, because he's gonna be able to guide and direct you through that, So that's what's important about a team. And that's why we're doing this podcast, you guys. And it's not always about houses and stuff, but I mean, it's helpful when it is, right? And then next week we'll do something fun. But this is something I don't remember why I put this in there. What does that mean? Highest and best use?
It means that it's basically doing what it was built for, right? Like, the highest and best use of a garage generally is to be a garage, right?
Oh, good points.
So, whenever a house is put together, properly or whatever, we always talk about it, or it's language that appraisers will use, that, the property exists in its highest and best use. It is a single family residence. It is, it's not condemned. You can live it, right?
Okay, perfect. Okay, that's basically all we have about appraisals today. So we're going to talk about some weird in the news in a minute, but I have something for you, Jason. Tell me if you know what this is, because it's valid because, well, it's a house.
That's it.
Let's see if anybody else knows what this is. I think people are watching. We'll talk about this first. What do you notice about this house, Jason? Because I did not tell you. Does it look familiar?
It looks like a face.
It does look like a face, and that's what everybody has said about this house. Now, it's funny because it's got a little Christmas.
This looks very much like the house that's right next door. I know what this house is.
Do you?
I know what this house.
I don't think anyone watching that can guess, but I mean, I'll send you a Snickers bar. Somebody comes in and guesses in 5 seconds.
Well, can I tell you a funny story about this house?
Yes, please. And then we'll see if somebody wants to guess while you're telling it. Don't say what it is.
Don't say what it is.
But if you say
I know this house because it looks very similar to the house that is right next door to my daughter. So my daughter has moved into a house and she's renting.
And you said,
I was talking to her and I pointed out the house next door and I said, doesn't that look an awful lot like the house from blank? And she said, Dad, stop it. You're scaring me.
Yeah.
There's your hint.
Sans the lake in the back. That's the other hint there. It's got a boathouse. So I guess people aren't going to really guess. It is the Amityville house, guys.
The Amityville.
Now, listen, Jason, does something like this, a house like this, the Amityville house, and thankfully in the past I would put the name up here and I didn't do that, thank God. Does a house like that, so like the Chris Watts house in Colorado, like, hasn't sold. I don't know if it will. A lot of people think, ooh, haunted, This place has sold. I'm going to tell you about it. But does that affect an appraisal? Like, I know that's not part of it, like, ooh, ghosts. But do you think that affects the value of the home? If there's, been a murder that everybody knows about kind of thing?
So it's interesting. On the appraisal, there is not a line that says, Grizzly, something happened here before. It doesn't, here's the thing about that. It would be remiss to say that somehow value isn't affected by things like that. It's probably not going to show up on an appraisal, though. It's more likely going to show up in either a borrower's reticence or eagerness to basically purchase that house. So, for instance, and I don't remember where it was because I'm not sure where they filmed it, but the house for the Brady Bunch, like they stole the home, right? Now, that's not going to show up in appraisal like, oh, this was the Brady Bunch house, so it must be worth more. But you can bet there was more demand for people saying, I want to buy this house because my house was on TV. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, again, what you end up with there is a difference in the perception of value. And that can be just as real as value, but an appraisal doesn't necessarily account for that.
See, that's a really good point. Would you live in that house, Jason?
I would prefer not to.
I think no. I don't know. It's a gorgeous house, though. I mean, they really fix it up. So here are some facts about it. It's kind of interesting. The original address was 112 Ocean Avenue, but it's been changed to 108 Ocean Avenue to Fort Looky-Loos, although it's out there now. Right? The house was. Guess what year this house was built? Pretty old.
1927.
Shut up. Did you know that?
Did I get it right? Did I get it right?
Yes. On the nose.
Are you serious?
Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, I'm serious. That was really awesome.
Weirdo. People are after the show, okay? I'm going and buying a lottery ticket.
You need a prize. I know. The tragedy struck on November 13th, 1974, when Ronald DeFeo Jr. shot and killed 6 members of his family with a .35 caliber rifle while they were asleep. And the thing that's crazy to me, if you look up these stories and stuff, is that Brian Beal says, "I'd live there, no worries."
Yep.
Yep. Well, it's got a lot of. I mean, it's gorgeous. But anyway, the thing is, like they said, nobody heard the shotguns and stuff. That's the shots. That's what's so weird. So all of the family members were found in the same position, face down in their beds. So that's just really, none of the neighbors heard gunshots. DeFeo initially claimed that a mafia hitman killed his family, and then admitted to it later. There's a speculation that there was a second killer might have been involved. DeFeo's stories changed over the years, so that's strange. And then the Lutz family purchased the home over a year later. So after the murders, guess what it was? What it was purchased for? The murders was 1974. So a year later, it was purchased. Guess the price. If you get this on the dot, like you definitely need to buy a lottery ticket.
Oh boy, I'm gonna guess that house in 1974. They probably paid
1975.
75. I don't know. $78,000.
Good guess. It was $88,000. You were exactly 10,000 off. So whatever lottery ticket you buy, do 10 less. Like your number 17, do 7.
Mud fire today. Mud fire.
How many days do you think they stayed in the home before they moved?
66.
28. 28. They didn't even stay a full month. So let's see. Over 10 million copies of the book have been sold, and let's see. There was one of the Lutz children, Christopher, said that he had a creepy experience in the house. Both children say the events detailed in the book are mostly fictional, which is interesting. And they both blame their stepfather, George, for bringing on any supernatural phenomenon, as they say he dabbled in the occult. So that's something you might not have known about that. What? But interesting nonetheless, because it's a house, right?
So, Miss Kay, I have a question for you.
Yes.
After those 28 days and they went to sell it, do they need to disclose that there is ghost activity in their home?
Well, if they're in Arizona, they do not.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
Now, someone asks, I mean, I'm sure that was all over the news, right? I'm sure not somebody walking by is not like, oh, is that the house? You know what I mean? Like, what happened here? This is kind of funny. Okay.
What's the Instagram doing here?
What's all this? What are all these bullets out on the lawn? Okay. Are you ready? It's time for Weird in the News. Okay. So we have a couple stories. Are you a football fan, Jason?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I've got something for you. Oh, hey.
Hey.
Okay, I gotta go. Sorry, I'm gonna get it. Hang on. Gotta make sure I put the audio on because I like to mess up on those things. Boop. Okay. Well, you can't really see it. So oops. All right, we'll do this one first. Car gets caught in a sudden, this is not a sports thing, in a sudden deer stampede on a Michigan road. So can you see this?
Barely.
Yeah, well, it's not going to be that small. Okay, I'm going to get bigger and then I'm going to show you, okay? Ready? It's ominous music.
Oh my goodness.
Can you imagine?
That might not come out of the clear coat.
No. Can you imagine? Oh my gosh. Okay, so here's the football one, and then we're done. Okay. Now, being a football fan, you kind of want to just have the things around your house that you want to have, right? Like it's a statue, or maybe it's this thing. Okay. Dun, da, da, da. Okay. All right. This is so strange to me. Kansas man ordered to remove giant Chiefs mural from side of home. Seriously? Do you see this?
Yes.
Okay.
How about those Chiefs? You know, Chiefs Kingdom very passionate, especially when it comes to the art and mural celebrating our team. But an artist's mural on his house is ordered to come down in KCK.
41 Action News reporter Nick Starling explains why and how the owner is taking it.
Painting is a passion for Chris Chansey.
Liberal, that's what I do.
After the Chiefs' big Super Bowl win, he spent 60 hours painting this work of art on the side of his house in KCK.
People come by still every day and snap pictures or just wave whenever I'm outside. So it's nice. It brings this little community together, it seems to me.
But it's not getting a lot of love from the city.
Got a letter from the city that told me they would appreciate it if I'd remove it from my house.
The letter states an inspection conducted at the property revealed violations, such as installing an illuminated mural sign on the property in a residential district, and must be corrected by the end of the month.
I couldn't believe it, just with everything going on, and I looked at it as a piece of celebration art, not actually a signage or anything bad.
Neighbors tell us they don't mind the mural.
I think it's a nice mural. There's nothing wrong with it.
We reached out to the unified government about the issue. They said, quote, "Fans can all agree this Chiefs mural is awesome. Unfortunately, murals including awesome ones like this are not allowed in residential areas per the city's code of ordinances," end quote.
So I just assumed it was art instead of just a sign and didn't have any verbiage on it or anything like that.
Chansey says he'll comply with the order, but this mural may live on as someone wants to cut it out and keep it.
There's a gentleman that's a friend of mine who's been teasing me about purchasing it and replacing it and fixing it all.
Reporting in KCK.
Okay, so here's the best part of this.
End quote.
Okay. Oh, shoot. Hang on. Of course, I missed it right there. I got to pause it. Okay. This quote, do you see this? Dang it. I can't see it because the thing's in front of me. The government, like, especially awesome ones like this, and then says, the unified government of Winnedote County and KCK spokesperson. Like, that's the actual quote that he used. Fans can all agree that this Chiefs mural is awesome. Unfortunately, awesome ones like this. I mean, seriously, is that not funny?
That's pretty funny.
What do you think about that? Like, so if somebody's going to cut it out, they're going to have to cut out the side of the house. They can't, right? He painted it on the house, didn't he?
Well, what he'll probably do is pull each board off, So
because out there
it looks like it's, siding or whatever. So they'll remove the siding and put it back.
What do you think about that? Is it, like, why would the city care? I mean, is that really an eyesore?
You want to know what? It's not. Here's what it is that I believe that it is. This is what I think. I don't think it has anything to do with the fact that it's a Chiefs mural or whatever. I think it's the precedent that it sets, right? So if you're in a situation where you paint a mural of, the Chiefs or whatever, okay, it's awesome, it's cool. What happens if the neighbor, paints a mural of Satan or whatever it is, so.
That's really good. I didn't think about that.
You have to let me tape this up because you let this guy keep that up. And so that's why they said an awesome one like that. So,
Yeah, Jason has a good point. Read this, Jason.
Yeah, ridiculous. It's their property. They should be able to do what they want. And that's what's kind of interesting, Brian. I totally get you. Have you ever thought about the fact we came up in school, right? And we live in a free country. This is a free country. We agree that it's a free country. you realize that we have actually more laws than any nation on earth?
Yeah, and if we actually went through some of those
Can't
laws,
do?
yeah, some of the laws are very, very weird, like inappropriate things that you're not supposed to do,
That's
that
right.
people like to do.
That's right. Yeah.
But it's strange. Yeah, let's see. I don't think they said. I don't know if I can. You know, they don't have HOAs there, so there's no restrictions that they know of. So that's one of the biggest complaint. But and this penalties will range from 100 to 1,500. And then they said, now is this true, Jason? If there's no HOA, that they could go so far as to take a lien against his property if he doesn't take it down. Is it because it's a city ordinance about? Because I get it with the signs and whatnot. Like somebody buys a McDonald's sign and lights it up in their front yard. Like nobody wants to see that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the golden arch. Now they have the golden arches. We have the golden arcs.
Yeah, the golden arch. That's awesome. We're gonna go to McDowell's after.
But I mean, really, could they do that? Could they take a lien against his property for something like that?
Yeah, they could. Think about it. People get liens put against their property all the time. For the IRS can come in and lien your property if you don't pay your taxes, right? Like,
yeah, true. Okay, whatever.
They have the power. We have given the government that power. Right, wrong, or indifferent.
Thanks for joining us for Weird in the News. Do you want to say anything else, Jason, before we go?
Katie, I would love to tell you that I really, really love your socks. I think they're awesome.
Oh my gosh, what a coincidence. I love your socks. I love your socks. I did it right. I love your socks.
How about
Have a great day. Stay on for 1 second and then we'll say bye to everybody. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
bye?